DJ?
Hear me speedily.
Okay, never mind. Just do your best.
Deliver me, O Lord, from mine enemies. I flee unto thee to hide me. Quicken me, O Lord, for thy name's sake. For thy righteousness' sake, bring my soul out of trouble. For I am thy servant.
Cheers! A saint's blood and good fortune to all.
Voices. So many voices. Laughing. 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 Was this the 10th such party? The 20th? I no longer had any idea. The Lord's guests merely drank of my blood. My father had not blessed me with his miracle, so wealthy nobles could fill their goblets with it. My blood was for the poor, for the infirm and the destitute. Why am I here? Why am I not doing my Father's work? With each passing moment, my body grew colder and colder, while a mad, fiery fervor spread amongst the partygoers. Father, it hurts. My soul hurt far more than my body. It felt like it was cracked into a dozen places, about to shatter. Again and again, I've told myself it was just a trial, that God was simply testing me, but I didn't think I could bear it much longer. A horrible black miasma spilled from the wounds of my flesh, filling the room. It was probably an illusion, something only I could see. The miasma soon became consuming my spirit. All my life, I spent telling myself to be pure, just, righteous, and all that was corroding away. ripping me asunder. Father, O Lord, of thy mercy, cut off mine enemies, and destroy all them that afflict my soul. For I am thy servant. I am thy servant. Please, O Father, deliver unto these sinners thy holy judgment. Cast them down into the depths of hell for the sins they would commit against thy faithful servant. Disguised as a prayer, I cursed them. For the first time in my life, I wished someone ill. I did what a saint, what the daughter of God, must never do. And in that moment, I committed a sin greater than anyone else in that room.
The girl! Look at her face!
I began to hear panicked voices rising up around the hall. However, I was completely oblivious to the cause of the unrest. In fact, I assumed that perhaps God has heard my wish and struck down some of the partygoers. The Lord marched over to where I sat in chains, grabbing me by the hair and yanking my head up. In his other hand, he held a sword. A disgusted grimace was carved into his face, as though he was looking down at the filthiest thing in the world.
You're a damned witch wearing a saint's skin.
This is worse than I expected.
James, keep going.
Oh. The stench of rotting flesh hung in the air. Corpses were strewn about the room in varying states of decay. Blood pooled on the floor, black and thick as mud. An eyeball hung loose from one body, half decomposed and about as much a liquid as it was a solid. On many, white bone was visible through patches of flesh that had rotted away entirely. Some had been worked to death. Others died of many numbers of diseases. And they were the lucky ones. Several bodies bore stab wounds from head to toe. Others looked like someone had tried to rip them in two. Some had been burned until their entire bodies shriveled, and some were covered in blisters. There was no shortage of people who had obviously been tortured. Though the man on the other end of the torture, the Lord Barnier, thought of it as more of a leisure activity. The Lord was spoken of in whispers as the second coming of the great tyrant of old, though it wasn't until I snuck into his manor and saw it for myself that I truly understood how accurate that was. He was a damned psychopath. I apologize that I couldn't make it in time to save you all too.
James, just use your normal voice.
Alright. I apologize, okay. I'm hardly a religious man, but for you, I think I can spare a prayer. Rest in peace. I'm not myself today. Though I suppose that shouldn't be a surprise, considering what today is. I wonder if that girl from the other day is among the dead. No, I need to stay focused. this goes south, I'll be the one joining this pile of bodies. God, I'm starting to get a little nervous. Don't go weak in the knees now, Jacopo. How can you ever expect to go out into the world if you can't even keep yourself together from something as straightforward as this? I can do this. No problem. Let's start ourselves a revolt. It all began a little over 2 weeks earlier. The local lord's iron-fisted rule was destroying the commoners. And this went doubly for those living in poverty, who were barely scraping by before taxes. You could hardly take 3 steps out in the slums without hearing someone curse the Lord. I have no idea who first proposed the plan. Everything came together so smoothly, so quickly, it's almost a blur. What started as the everyday litany of complaints hurled back and forth between the usual crew of young, indignant men in the pub soon escalated, ballooning into a full-fledged plot to strike back. He treats us like dog shit! We're the ones working in his goddamn land! Let's give the bastard what's coming! Over the next few days, words of the plot spread throughout the slums, and the number of volunteers grew at an impressive pace. And the more people we had on board, the more realistic it all started to become. While the original plan amounted to charging in headlong with whatever weapon we could scrounge together, it quickly evolved into a more sensible scheme to infiltrate the Lord's manor and free his slaves. It was no secret that the Lord was purchasing far more slaves than he should ever have any reasonable use for. What we didn't know was what he did with the slaves. That the banquets he so loved to throw were actually sick, sadistic torture parties. The best we could do was infer their living conditions were less than ideal from the fact that the Lord kept acquiring more. And while the plan to free the Lord's slaves was undeniably rooted in a righteous desire, I would be lying if I said everyone's intentions were so pure. We wanted to right an injustice, absolutely, but the prevailing desire was for vengeance, to give the Lord a little comeuppance. Part of it was also calculated, that it would be advantageous for it to look like a slave revolt rather than a civilian uprising. If we struck from the outside, we were liable to bring the Lord's wrath down upon more than just the handful of us involved. But if the blow came from the inside, he couldn't blame us. Secondly, the Lord's mansion sat atop a hill, which meant his soldiers had the advantage of terrain. It would be nigh impossible for a band of lowly, ill-equipped peasants to break through his defenses, and we certainly didn't have the money to hire mercenaries. No amount of righteous anger was getting us anywhere near that manor. On the other hand, quietly getting one person inside to stir the pot was far more feasible. So, ultimately, freeing the slaves was a means to an end. It was our best chance to deal the Lord a real blow. Of course, that didn't mean we wouldn't have as many people as we could, nor did it mean it would be easy to pull off, or that any of us would make it out alive. The plan went as follows. We would find a slave trader willing to sell one of us to the Lord. Once they had infiltrated, they would spread the word of the scheme to the other slaves, trying to get as many of them on board as possible. Finding a slave trader willing to cooperate was surprisingly easy. They're businessmen, and slaves their product. while the majority didn't give a damn what happened to the slaves after they'd received payment. There were more than a few who were displeased knowing their precious wares were being squandered. Slaves are supposed to be long-term workers. They're not meant to be expendable. They require food and rest and some semblance of reasonable living conditions. It was far from a glamorous life, obviously, but most sensible slave owners at least had vested interest in keeping their workers alive. However, that was far from the case with Lord Barnier. Slaves were, of course, the property of whoever purchased them, and a mere slave trader had no place complaining about how they were being treated. That didn't mean the traders had to like it, though, and there was a small collective of them who staunchly refused to do business with the Lord, quietly mocking any who did. Nobody openly spoke ill of the Lord, let alone opposed him directly. Not only because this land was under his control, but because he was a madman, and everyone knew it. So they would help us get in, and nothing more. But that was fine. That was all we needed from them to put our plan into action. And the vanguard of our operation, the one who would infiltrate the Lord's manor, was me. I volunteered for this position, partially in the heat of the moment, but also because I was confident I could pull it off. Above all, though, I didn't want to believe that I couldn't manage such a straightforward task. I had to step up and take initiative, or I would never escape this life as a poor, lowly slum dweller. Crawling through the dirt, everyone, nobles and peasants alike, looking down on me, thinking I'm worthless. That would be me for my whole life. Whole pathetic life. Like hell I was gonna let that happen. I wanted to claw my way up, as high as I could manage. I didn't want to surrender, to accept that I was powerless. I wanted to make something of my one and only life. We chose the beginning of the Lord's next banquet for my infiltration. And that was when I saw the horror for myself. The abuse and the torture he put the slaves through. It was a goddamned blood banquet. Any mistake, no matter how small, would invite harsh discipline. If Barnier was in a particularly foul mood that day, he would physically beat the wrongdoer. He had a particular fondness for activities that drew blood, though. And he would regularly gather together nobles with similar predilections at his manor. Once a banquet had begun, it generally continued for around 2 weeks. The first thing I did after infiltrating was spread the word of the plan to the other slaves. To be honest, I assumed it would be easy getting them to cooperate. They should have reviled Barnier more than anyone, after all. But I couldn't have been more wrong. Every ounce of willpower had been drained from them. They were malnourished, unrested, and violently oppressed. I could hardly have convinced them to swat a mosquito. He had them completely under his thumb. Everyone was utterly terrified to fight back against Barnier. They would just as soon take their own lives. Hardly a day in, and the plan already seemed to have hit a wall. A full week I spent trying, and failing, to convince a single soul to assist in the revolt. just as I was beginning to fear it might not work after all.
Justin?
We need to talk. Come with me.
He was a tall, muscular slave who spent most of his time doing physical labor. Despite the poor conditions, he seemed to be keeping himself in rather good shape. And unlike the other slaves, his eyes weren't filled with fear and resignation. But it wasn't hope I saw in them either. Rather, they looked like the eyes of a bloodthirsty wolf. And his unkempt, greasy blonde hair only served to amplify the primal impression he gave off. Between that and the faint, cocky smirk visible on his lips, he more resembled the head of a gang of ruffians than a slave. I wasn't sure it was entirely wise to accompany him anywhere. But against my better judgment, and with far too little information, I followed the man to the Great Hall. There were a dozen or so nobles and upper-class men and women clustered about the hall. The air was filled with the scent of aromatic herbs, and it wasn't long before I realized they were meant to mask the smell of blood. A large table was lined with plates stacked with piles of glistening, dark red meat. Noblemen sneered at us with wet lips as we entered the room. The contrast between the nobles' practiced, graceful mannerisms and the grotesque feast of which they were partaking was so bizarre, I simply stood there aghast. There was no room for anger to form. The Lord stood on a platform, like a small stage at the far end of the room.
Are you the slave who offered to be the day's entertainment?
The buff man nodded, dropping down to one knee. What does he mean by entertainment?
Sure you've tried of merely inflicting pains on helpless fit slaves. Would you, by chance, be interested in something a little more exciting?
Could you be any more disrespectful? Lord Barnier, you do best to get rid of the barbarians such as him.
There. Give the poor man a break. You can't expect an uneducated slave to be properly versed in the ways of polite society. Now, elaborate, slave.
Me and him, we duel. Right here, right now.
You seriously think we haven't already pit slaves against each other numerous times by now? That's all?
Tell me, were they as vigorous as the two of us? Young and chomping at the bit.
Well,
If all y'all want to see a couple of half-dead slaves limply flailing at each other, then help yourselves. But you're not gonna find many here what can give you a fight with some real oomph, you know? Hell, half the slaves here probably keel over just in a little shove. So I figured you might be up for a little change of pace. A barbarian like me.
Whoa! I never agreed to this.
Suck it up, you're a slave. Since when have ya had the right to agree to anything?
You make a compelling argument. Gratien, was it?
The Lord knows my name. I'm honored.
I only remembered because you came very highly recommended. The slave trader said you were descended from a line of warriors that made a name for themselves, fighting in the ancient Colosseum. I had assumed he was exaggerating. But perhaps there was some truth to it after all.
Who can say? Couldn't tell you about my ancestors. But what I can tell you is that I just love a good duel.
Fought in the Colosseum? Descended from gladiators? And I'm supposed to go one-on-one against him?
Very well. Guards! Bring these 2 swords!
Sir!
Shit. What is he hoping to accomplish? To win Barnier's favor? I guess I'll just have to hope I can catch him by surprise as soon as...
Hey, kid, listen up.
What?
Ice forward. And keep him down. Listen carefully. Don't get any wise ideas. Got it? Just go along with it. Everything's on the level.
What are you scheming?
You'll find out soon enough. Assuming you can handle a sword, anyhow.
Two guards approached us, each carrying a longsword. It was heavier than I expected, and felt awkward in my hands. Both of our blades were badly chipped, clearly old and battle-worn. Of course, they wouldn't give new quality weapons to a pair of slaves, but a sword was still a sword. Beaten though they may have been, I still had to be careful or I'd be dead before I ever got the slave revolt off the ground. That said, I had survived this long in the slums. I wasn't completely helpless, and I had experience with a dagger. Though I wasn't sure how much help that would be now. The longer two-handed weapon still felt awkward in my hands. As I squinted at the blade's hilt and adjusted my grip, trying to familiarize myself with the feel of it, Barnier took his seat, readying himself for the spectacle. That's when I caught sight of what lay hidden at the back of the stage. What? I stood there, staring agape, completely forgetting what I was but moments from a duel with a man twice my size. At the back of the stage was what looked like an altar, draped in a thick white sheet and stained red. Atop it sat a young girl, covered in gashes. Her head was drooped, so I couldn't see her face. But judging from her size, I didn't think she could be more than 10 years of age. Some wounds were older and already scabbed over. Some were swollen, bright red protrusions on her pale skin. And some were oozing pus, and others were so fresh they were still bleeding. It was difficult to find a part of her body that wasn't cut. Hey! What do you think you're doing to that girl? I don't care who you are. No one deserves that! Even as I shouted at the Lord, the girl remained motionless. She seemed unconscious. I'm not dead yet, but it wouldn't be long.
Silence, cur! I don't recall giving you permission to speak. Or if you'd rather lose your head right now, continue on as you are.
Damned despot.
Now go on. Get started. Give us a show befitting of this grand affair.
Fighting my urge to snap back at him, I turned to face the slave named Gratien. The other guests lined the walls, whispering among themselves, speculating about the potential victor. The crowd was so overwhelmingly in Gratien's favor, to absolutely no surprise, they didn't even bother taking bets.
Try not to go down in one blow, kid.
Oh, hold on! What's the point of this? Slowly, Gratien lowered into a crouch, and the next second he leapt at me like a tiger. There was an audible whoosh, and before I even had the time to gasp, he was a mere inches away. What choice do I have? I swung my sword up, catching Gratien's blade mid-descent and attempting to parry, but there was far more weight in his strike than I had expected. The impact caused my hands to sting painfully and my knees to buckle. I clenched my teeth, trying, at the very least, to hold my ground. Gratien barely gave me time to recover, let alone strike back, before launching into a second attack. He handled the longsword so effortlessly, swinging it through the air in such an impressive, perfect arc, that I could hardly believe we were both using the same weapon. Ha! I twisted out of the way, but not quite in time. The tip of his blade skimmed the skin of my neck. And then, not even giving me a chance to catch my balance, he thrust his blade at me. While I managed to deflect the attack just in time, I wasn't able to follow through. Meanwhile, a wide, mocking smirk spread across Gratien's face. He seemed to be having the time of his life.
Come on, kid. You're gonna have to do better than that if you're gonna keep your head.
I rattled off several insults in my head. But unlike him, I couldn't spare the energy to put them into words.
Pick it up, boy.
God damn!
That's all you got, kid. I thought you had to fare a little better.
Shut your damned mouth! I was stuck on the defensive, and with every strike, he pushed me further and further back. I was almost up against the wall. I thought he said this was part of some plan. Or was he just trying to get me to let my guard down? He's conspiring with the Lord. He must be. Why challenge me to a duel, though? Did someone spill word of the plan to him?
Come on, come on. Give me your best shot, boy.
Yes, very funny. You know damn well I'm barely managing as it is.
You got to at least try. Don't want to put our audience to sleep now, do we?
Even the bones in my forearms are starting to sting. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up.
Here, let me show you how it's done.
God, I can't get a damn inch on him. Much more of this and I'll be up against the wall. I'm dead if I don't go on the offensive. Now's my last chance. While I've still got breathing room. Hey, big guy! You might think you have the advantage, but not for long!
That's rich. Coming from a guy who can't even get one swing on me.
It was all a trick to get your guard down. I've been saving this one just for you, meathead! Good luck dodging it! With that hulking body of yours!
Now that's more like it. Let me have it, kid.
I hopped backwards a couple of paces until my heel was pressed up against the wall. There was no backing down. Not anymore. Breathing heavily, I lifted my blade, pointing it at Gratien. He pointed his in return, a cocky grin plastered on his face. And then, I kicked off the ground hard, sending me flying toward him. My sword held down near my waist, his above his head. And then, whoosh! He whiffed, his blade ripping through the air just over my head. The mere force of the gale created by his swing was so intense. For a brief moment, I thought he might have knocked my head clean off my shoulders. But I was still breathing. And despite my exhaustion, my mind was incredibly clear and focused. I hadn't swung up at him, but slid across the floor. Your back's wide open. I lurched to my feet, spinning around, and swung my sword at his neck with everything I had. What? But my would-be grand comeback was deflected from behind without a bat of an eye. And hardly a wimpy deflect for that matter. My hands felt like they were on fire.
Little bit on the dirty side, that was. But hey, not half bad, kid.
Damn it!
Just a little more oomph to that swing, and you might have landed it. Too bad, too bad.
I don't stand a chance against him head on, but he's not one to fall for the same trick twice. I need a new plan.
Back against the wall with you.
Son of a...
What's the matter, kid? That's all you got? After all that talk, I was expecting a little more from you.
He's got me completely under his thumb. I'm dead if I don't do something, but I can barely lift my arms anymore. It's getting harder to breathe. My vision's going blurry. I can't die yet. Not here. Not now. And not to this damn brute. There has to be something. An opening. I'm not seeing anything. Some way to turn the tables. Am I imagining it? Or did I react to that quicker than usual? Is he doing what I think he's doing? Patterns were forming in my mind. I'd been through this routine so many times now, my body instinctively knew what came next. I'd parried his strike entirely by reflex. I wasn't so full of myself as to think that it was a sign that I was gaining the upper hand. As much as I loathed to admit it, he had every imaginable advantage over me. I should have realized what he was doing sooner, but I'd been so focused on keeping my head attached and my sword in my hands that I didn't have the spare mental capacity to see beyond that. He was in complete control. The only reason I was able to keep up with him was because he was letting me. Because he was repeating the same sequence of attacks again and again. If I'm right, the next, he'll come from above.
Ho ho ho!
Right on the money. A clang, like the pealing of a bell, echoed through the hall as our blades collided. It was a much cleaner, more satisfying sound than they had made when I was struggling to keep up. I still don't know what he's scheming, but I'm not going to throw away this chance to win back some ground. Sparks flew with each clash of our swords, and Gratien's smirk grew wider. I could hear murmuring bubble up from the gallery as the tides turned. Cheering, cursing, confused gasps. But before long, the sound seemed to grow distant. It was just me and Gratien in a bubble of silence. Not even the sound of metal striking metal. My heavy breathing. The stomping of our feet. The distractingly loud pounding of my heart. The blood pumping through my veins. It all wisped away into nothing. Every one of my senses were focused on exactly two things. The image of our swords cutting clear arcs through the air, and Gratien's intent.
That's it. Next, overhead.
He whispered so quietly that by all rights, I could have never heard it, but his intentions came through loud and clear. As if being controlled by that voice, I swung my sword down. After about a half dozen such clashes, we locked blades and had a brief shoving match before putting a little distance between each other. Then we went at it again. To the audience, it would have looked like a fierce battle to the death, but I felt more like we were dancing than anything. Well, he was dancing. I was merely following his lead. But if that was his plan, or whatever his plan was, I had no choice but to dance to his beat. The only thing improvisation would get me was a sword through the heart. Meanwhile, sticking to the plan, I had nothing to worry about. No reason to fear his sword might go off course. After several more fierce clashes, we got in close again. We were both breathing pretty heavily by that point. I was drenched in sweat. It felt like I'd collapse right then and there if I had loosened up for even a second. Gratien tossed a glance off the side of his for the briefest of moments. His lips came together, curling into a smile.
Hey, listen up. 3 paces back, then charge. Swing down as hard as you can. Put everything you got into it.
As soon as I signaled my acknowledgement, Gratien parried my sword off to the side. 1, 2, 3 paces back, then I gathered my strength into my legs. I crouched, like he had at the beginning of the duel, envisioning myself as a tiger ready to pounce. And then, we leapt at each other in a perfect sync. What? The harsh sound of metal striking metal, more piercing than anything else up to that point. For a heartbeat, the world went white. Then, the whoosh of something ripping through the air. It wasn't for another second or two that I realized what had happened. Breathing heavily, I looked down at the sword in my hands, only to find half of it missing. Gration's blade appeared to have snapped as well. The gallery began buzzing. "Are you all right? How dreadfully dangerous." A perverse grin spread across Gration's lips. I finally understood what he had been scheming. He wanted the swords to break, and he wanted it to look like an accident, hoping that when it shattered and the blades went flying, a noble or two would be caught in the crossfire. And that explained the whole song and dance, why he had us hitting each other's blades in the same spots again and again. But how the hell could you ever expect that to work? That said, if the fight had gone on much longer, I don't think I would have lasted. His plan seemed to have gone about as well as you could reasonably expect. One piece landed near Barnier, and the other embedded in the table. That's fine by me. I'd rather avoid causing any more of a scene before the actual revolt. Not that I would be opposed to seeing any of these madmen skewered. Gratien wiped the sweat from his brow with the back of his hand and surveyed the room. As obviously outclassed as he was by all the nobles, he still seemed much larger than anyone else in the room. He took a few moments to catch his breath, then sauntered over to the center of the great hall, taking another good look around the room before saying,
Apologies for the disturbance, my lord. While ordinarily a duel is supposed to end with someone dead, it looks like we ought to question today. So mayhap we can reschedule. Put another show in a day or two, if you'd like.
Barnier seemed less than pleased with the outcome, but considering how rattled his guests were, he couldn't press the matter either.
Very well. Now, I believe you two deserve a reward for such a fine show.
Oh, what kind of award?
One I'm sure you'll be quite pleased with. The leftovers from today's feast. Gourmet cuisine the likes of which you mere slaves could only dream of getting your dirty hands on.
You mean those bleeding scraps of mystery meat?
Worry not. There's pork in there. Or does your religion prohibit you from eating pig?
Nah, I gave up on religion long ago. I'm fine with eating meat. Most meat, anyway.
I'll have the other slaves bring it down this evening, then. Now, the show's over. Be gone with you.
Gone we be, my lord.
I'm still concerned about the girl, but there's nothing I can do for her right now. Hopefully she lasts long enough for the revolt, but with wounds like that.
Hey kid, pick your B-ass up and let's get out of here.
I am not beat, thank you very much.
Who you trying to fool when you're wheezing up a lung? Getting huffy about it only makes you look more pathetic.
Piss off, you inhuman monster.
Now, do you have a wonderful day, ladies and gents?
Once we were out of the hall and in the corridor, I took several deep breaths, finally letting loose some of the tension that had built up within me. As we made our way through the corridors, the sound of the nobles laughing and chattering away amongst themselves faded into nothing. We headed for the rather barren waiting room where the slaves without assignments were kept. In essence, it was a human closet. I looked up at Gratien, who was standing beside me. I had about a dozen things I wanted to say to him, but I couldn't organize my thoughts into words. So I simply shrugged and pursed my lips. Yeah, that was a shame.
Huh? What was a shame?
You were hoping to kill at least one noble when the swords broke, weren't you?
If only. I'm not that skilled. Hell no.
You could have fooled me.
If anything, I say we're lucky it went as well as it did. It's so damn good. It's a damn good thing they gave us their old crusty swords. But we've never managed to break them at all.
If not skewer the other nobles, then why go to such lengths at all?
Well, because otherwise we had to fight to death, of course.
No, that's not what I'm...
Of course, we both know who'd be standing here then.
As much as I'd hate to admit it, he has me beat in almost every category. For God's sake, how do you even get that good with a sword? Is it hereditary or something? What I'm trying to figure out is what your ultimate objective was in this whole facade. Why challenge me to a duel at all?
You're planning a revolt, aren't you, kid?
What does that have to do with anything?
Just answer the question.
Denying it will only delay the inevitable, so no point in that. And I'm fairly certain he's not on the Lord's side, at least. If he was just trying to win the Lord's favor, I can't imagine the duel would have ended the way it did. And I can probably trust him. Yes, I am. And I need the other slaves' help to pull it off.
But the little drones have been sucked all of the fights, all of their fights. You can't get anyone on board.
Why even ask the question if you already know the answer?
Hey now, no need for the little lip, kid. I brought it up because you're trying to tell me, because I'm trying to tell you, I'm in.
You're in? Excuse me? What about anything you've done today would make me think you're in?
Bear with me for a sec, but put yourself in the other shoes, in the other slaves' places. Some dick they never met before shows up out of the blue saying, I've organized to have you set free, and I need your help to do it. You think they're gonna buy it? You think they're gonna buy it?
Fair enough. But it is true that I have people outside.
Don't matter. You could have been lying through your teeth, and it wouldn't have changed a damn thing. All that matters is whether they think you're worth getting behind.
I see your point. These slaves have been driven into the very depths of despair. They need something charismatic enough to pull them out of that pit before they can be sparked to take any sort of action. Before infiltrating, I imagined it would be much simpler. It would seem that it was rather naive of me.
That was a whole lot of words to say the same thing I just said. Forget your fantasy metaphors. It all boils down to this. Do they think you have a chance of pulling it off? Yes or no? These people, they don't got the energy to get all philosophical. They go with their gut. And the quickest way to their gut, show them you're strong.
Now I'm starting to understand what the duel was for. The other slaves already know of your prowess. So if I were to fight on the same level as you...
then they'd be willing to hell you out. Exactly. Whoa there, kid. Why the sigh? You trying to blow this place down?
You could have easily accomplished that without putting a damned show in front of the Lord and putting my life in danger.
It wasn't just for the other slaves, kid.
What do you mean?
I wanted to make sure you weren't some yellow-bellied peasant. That you're actually capable of doing what you promise. And now that I know you've got a semi-functional spine, I'm willing to help out with the revolt.
Semi-functional, huh? Well, I'm glad I didn't disappoint you then. Given my performance back there, I couldn't blame you if you deemed me beyond hope.
Give yourself a little more credit, kid. While I'm pretty sure the stories about my ancestors being gladiators are exaggerated, I did participate in a few death games myself back before I ended up here. You should consider it a badge of honor that you fought a brute like me and lived to tell the tale.
I was under the impression the church put an end to gladiatorial games.
Right. It went underground. The rules may change, but not the people. Always a market for blood sports. Then yada yada, I got sold to the Lord and here I am.
That probably explains what he meant when he said he had given up on religion.
So, what's your story, kid? My money's on some rich aristocrat. What got it in his head, and he wanted to play hero and stop the big bad lord from being mean to his slaves.
What the hell gave you that idea?
You strike me as more of a prissy rich boy than a ruffian is all.
Prissy rich boy? I come from the slums. So no, I'm not just some upper class punk playing hero.
That a fact? Well, color me surprised. You sure don't look or talk like any of the slum boys I know.
That's probably because... Nothing.
And now I'm even more curious. Damn it.
Honestly, it's not that interesting, I promise. Forget I said anything. It's because I want to be able to blend in when I eventually leave the slums. But he doesn't need to know that. I only just met him.
Whatever you say. Then, in that case, how about we do some more proper introductions, huh? The name's Gratien, which you should know by now. Nice meeting you, kid.
Jacopo. I'm very glad to have been your support, Gratien.
Don't mention it. I've been wanting to make more scumbag eat dirt myself, and this is the perfect chance. Oh, right. One more thing I wanted to ask.
What?
How old are you?
Excuse me? Is that relevant to anything?
Jeez, kid. Someone really needs to teach you how to shut your mouth and answer a simple question.
I'm 19.
Oh, thank God. I'm 20. Now, I don't have to feel like an ass for calling you a kid.
I'm only a year younger. That hardly makes me a kid.
A year's a long time, kid. Now that I got that off my shoulders, I can put my all into helping with your revolt.
I'm starting to wonder if I even want this guy's help. Once I had Gratien on board, it was remarkable how quick the rest of the slaves were to join in. They knew him, and they respected him, and that respect went a long way toward improving my own standing. As far as they were concerned, I had fought Gratien and managed to hold my own. And then the big man was right. It wasn't a clever plan or a moving speech these people needed to put light back into their eyes. It was a show of strength. Over the next few days, as Barnier and his guests indulged themselves, word of the plan quietly spread beneath the surface. I started to see signs of life for the first time since I had arrived. The majority of the slaves were emaciated and weak. There was a good possibility the guards would kill many of them. But still, I urged on any who hesitated by saying, if you choose to stay, you're guaranteed to be killed eventually. It was true, to be sure, but in essence, I was threatening them. Help or be left behind to die. And that was enough to convince them to grab onto the thread of hope I was offering, however frail it may be. We chose the 13th day of the banquet to commence the revolt. Waiting until almost the end of the party's usual 2-week duration gave us a slight tactical advantage. Naturally, Barnier's guests did not attend without their own protection. But after being made to watch over almost 2 weeks of debauchery, the guards would start getting exhausted. They would stop caring. And that was exactly what we needed.
Hey there. Jacopo.
Jacopo.
Jacopo. Everything's good to go on my head? We can give a Lord asshole what's coming whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I appreciate all your help.
Whoa there, kid. Save the things for after we get out of here, or for a head still attached.
Fair enough. Then how about this? If we both survive, I'll take you to the best pub in the slums.
As long as you're there, as long as they're pretty ladies, count me in.
There's one I can introduce you to, if you don't mind your girl's headstrong and with a little bit of bite.
Tough and pretty? Now that I can get behind. I spent so long surrounded by all these half-dead drones, that I could sure stand for some good-natured abuse right now.
Good-natured might be a bit of a stretch. Rub her the wrong way and you'll find yourself short a pair of jewels.
Think I'll pass on that one. I don't care how much of a looker she is. I ain't ready for her to be my last. How about this then? I tell you what I'm looking for, and you'll have to find someone picked out for me by the time all this is over. Flexible on look, but slender and short is a must. Meaty girls aren't really my type. Blonde hair, blue eyes are a plus, but ain't a deal breaker. And I like him to be a bit.
So slow down there. You've got your head way too far in the clouds if you think you're going to find your ideal wife at the brothel in the slums.
Hey now, how do you expect me to give this all without something to look forward to on the other side?
I suppose it is a decent motivator.
See? You get me.
Now, on to business. You ready to do this?
I've been ready, kid. Just waiting for the word.
That's about as good an answer as I could have hoped for. Before we begin, I want to go over the plan one last time. After you've secured the weapons from the armory, you take command of the other slaves and then go open the gates. While you're doing that, I'll signal to my people outside, then cause a diversion. As long as we don't have to make too much noise, the Lord and the other nobles shouldn't realize anything is amiss until we're on top of them. As soon as the gates are open, you head for the Great Hall, where we'll rendezvous. We crash the party, and while the Lord and his friends are distracted, my people will lead the slaves to safety.
And then we swipe all the shiny things we can carry and get our asses the high hell out of here.
Right. Can't forget the valuables.
Huzzah! I'm getting all sorts of fired up. Don't you trip or fall and make some guard sword. Or fall in some guard sword before we even get started on our fun. You hear me?
Same to you. Well then, let's get going. May fate be on our side.
Damn right.
Hey! What do you think you're doing? You're supposed to be here. Get back to... sit back! Don't make me kill you! Wait, stop! Frank.
You're up. Come on and draw your bloody cards already.
Don't rush me, I'm thinking.
On with it. It's almost lunch.
How this and throw away these, then I could.
Christ. Huh? Hear that? Sounds like something's happening downstairs.
Quit trying to distract me. Ain't letting you run off at the pot like last time.
No, I'm serious. Something's going on down there.
Probably just a slave getting beat. Ain't I used to that by now?
I don't know. Something feels off to me. I'm gonna go check it out. Don't even think about messing the cards while I'm gone.
I won't. Hurry back! You're the bones are giving a rat's ass.
Speaking of what you're so eager about, I wish I could have gotten hired at a place that paid a little better. Seeing things? I just saw something move. You on the wall! Get down from there! What do you think you're doing? You're not supposed to be up. Drop the knife. Away before I...
You're up here playing cards and you have the nerve to call yourself a guard? I expected resistance to be light, but not this bad. I should take care of this and get out of here before the other one returns. It's amazing how much better a knife feels in my hands than a sword. So much easier to handle. Well, it's not much help if they manage to draw on me first. Maybe I'll ask Gratien to teach me how to use a sword if we both make it through the day. I hate the idea of giving him any more reason to claim superiority over me, but I can't think of anyone better than him. Keeping an eye on my surroundings, I climbed up to the watchtower. I could hear shouting in the distance. It seemed Gratien was doing his job. I pulled a brightly colored cloth from my pocket and affixed it to the highest point of the tower. As it began flapping in the wind, I turned my attention toward a hill in the distance. A group of tiny dots emerged from behind the rock formation, heading this way. I let out a sigh of relief. Next up, time to make some noise.
Duck. Backup! We need backup! The slaves are revolting! Revolting? Are you serious? What do you think he'd carry around that damn sword for? You need backup, just put him down! Yes, but there's too many of them! And they're not messing around either! They're stampeding right through us! They don't care how many of them die! And one of them is practically a giant! Now quit pissing yourself with a bunch of damn slaves. Who cares how big one of them is? They're not armed, just... Behind you! Huh?
Sorry to disappoint you, but we are armed. Maybe you should consider posting another couple guards in front of your army.
Ah! There he is! There he is! There he is!
Come on, little man. Let's see what you got.
Ah!
You're no fun. Anywho. Get these gates open, boys.
Yeah!
I take it... Jacopo? One more time? I'm sorry, Jacopo?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Ooh, I take it those are Jacopo's people.
Jack, like Jacopo's people.
Jacopo's, thank you. Kid actually did his job instead of booking it to the hell out of here. Good on him. Of course, that's exactly what I was gonna find out if he didn't see his people when we opened the gates. Yes, he actually is good for his work. Which means I'm sticking through it to the very end. Hey, take out as many of those bastards you can on your way in, and be thorough. We want a clean escape, and we don't want to give them any chance to surround us. Keep at it. Don't let them get organized. And if we fuck this up, the ass pipe, it's the gallows for all of us. If you need a weapon, grab a rock, a vase, or a fucking decapitated head, and anything you can find.
Gratien, how are things progressing?
Smooth as a baby's behind. Your reinforcements are here, making right good work for our guards, getting as many slaves out of here as they can.
I'm glad to hear it. Then let's head down to the Great Hall.
Aye, let's. I like nothing more than to rip the Lord's head right off his shoulders.
The point is not to kill the Lord. It's to deal just enough of a blow that he stops throwing so many damned banquets. For now, anyway.
And what if I trip and my sword just happens to run through him?
I'd rather if you didn't, if at all possible. But whatever happens, happens.
Alright, let's do this.
Yeah! Is it just me, or is it unnaturally noisy in there? Did some of the others beat us to it, maybe?
Well, as I know, we're the first ones here.
Well, I guess we'll find out. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3! Chaos reigned over the manor. But the chaos in the hall where the Lord held his banquet was of a slightly different flavor. A buzz filled the room. Noblemen and women murmured, shuffling backwards, putting distance between each other, tossing goblets to the ground. As Gratien had suspected, we were the first ones there. So why was everyone so tense? Whatever the cause of the disturbance, it seemed that it was at least partially to thank for things proceeding so smoothly. The question is, what is happening here? Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of the Lord. He stomped over toward the far end of the hall. Sitting atop the makeshift altar was the same young girl I had seen a week prior. For a brief moment, relief came over me at the knowledge she was still alive. But that relief quickly morphed into dread.
You!
He unlocked the shackles binding the girl. Too weak to hold herself up, she fell forward into a slump, her long burgundy hair fanning out around her limp body. And then...
You're a damned witch wearing a saint's skin!
the Lord raised his sword high above his head. Gratien, I'll be borrowing that.
What? Hey, you little son of a...
What?
I hurled Gratien's long sword for the Lord, knocking his blade from his hand. The two swords were rattled to the ground. I tossed my gaze to the girl for a split second. She was very clearly out of it, but she seemed to be breathing. Finally realizing a pair of slaves had just burst in on them, the noble's panic swelled, and one of them started shouting for the guards.
Well, fuck me sideways. There goes any chance we had of a surprise attack. Damn it all. And we had a perfect distraction, too. To hell with it. Get in here, boys!
Yeah!
Wait a sec. Need my sword first.
The next second, the room was enveloped in a cacophony of shouting and screaming and clanging. Most of the nobles carried swords, but very few actually seemed to have any idea how to use them, the majority scrambling for the back exit.
You insolent worm! Who do you think I am? To threaten your lord is to slight God!
Ever the cocky bastard, I see. Tell me, do you have any idea what's happening right now?
Silence, cur! You will regret ever defying me.
Ha! Nothing more original, you third-rate fairy tale villain! I was the one who had said the Lord's death was not a part of the plan. Yet there I was, going straight for him. Gratien was absolutely right. The Lord had been distracted with the girl when we arrived, but I had thrown that advantage away. I'd seen God knows how many slaves killed in hardly 2 weeks' time. Adding another body to the pile shouldn't have fazed me one bit. Logically, there was no reason for me to care. But I couldn't just leave her. And of course, now that I'd picked a fight with the Lord, I had no choice but to follow through to the very end. I dashed for the Lord, scooping up one of the dropped swords and swinging it down on him. But my blade cut through nothing but air. I had assumed he would be a pushover, another noble obsessed with money and power and helpless to defend himself, so there was no hiding the look of shock on my face. Damn, he can move! Barnier slid out of range, wiping the remaining sword off the ground and whipping it through the air with practiced grace.
Perhaps you should save the snide yapping for when you have the skill to back it up, insignificant cur!
Ha! We'll see if you still feel the same way when I'm through with you! I closed the gap. We clashed. He swung, I parried. Steel and steel ripped through hot air, carving ephemeral silver arcs in empty space. Our blades locked.
What are you hoping to accomplish with this revolt? What's your end game?
My endgame? To get out of this hellhole and be free from slavery once and for all!
I have my doubts about whether you ever were a slave at all. But no matter. Why attack me? What do you care about the girl? What do you have to gain from saving her?
He's right. I have nothing to gain from rescuing the girl. All I've accomplished is making this whole process needlessly messy. That said, do I need to have something to gain? Are you saying I should just sit back and watch you murder an innocent little girl? I was angry, and I thought I'd do something about it. Nothing more, nothing less! Is that really too hard to understand?
Nothing more than a childish hero complex. Just the answer I would expect from a foolish little boy with his head in the clouds.
Excuse me?
You're a puny worm, powerless to truly save anyone. You merely want to help the girl so you can pat yourself on the back and pretend you did a good deed. You simply want an excuse to be proud of your worthless self. Look at her. The girl's hardly even breathing. She'll be dead soon enough, with or without my help.
And who do you think it is to blame for that? You don't have any right to judge the value of her life!
My role in this is irrelevant. Was saving a dead girl part of the plan? It wasn't, was it? You diverged from the script to rescue a girl whose life is of no worth to you whatsoever, all so you could momentarily feel good about yourself. That misstep will be the downfall of you, worm.
Enough!
I'll put you back in the ground where you belong!
Not a chance! Goddamn! For a flamboyantly dressed asshole, he sure can fight! There's not nearly as much force behind his swings as Gratien's, but he's quick! I can barely keep up, let alone react.
I hope you enjoy eternity in hell! You'll have plenty of time to reflect on your little lapse in judgment.
Damn it! I can't let this bastard kill me when we're so close to succeeding. I need to keep my cool. Yes, he's got me beat in agility. But Gratien's a much more skilled swordsman than him. I can handle this.
Sheer determination can only mask a lack of skill for so long, boy. Look at yourself. You're out of breath. That sword you're flailing around is getting heavier and heavier.
Shut your mouth, damn it! I've hardly broken a sweat! I swear to God, I will have your head!
Ha!
Lord Barnier, your escape has been secured, my lord.
It seems our fun is over. Be grateful you're still breathing, cur.
Hey, wait! We're not done yet! Get back here, goddamn you! I made to go after him, but in an instant, a wall of guards had formed between us. Traces of fear were visible in most of their eyes. Even exhausted as I was, I could have probably made it through. But before I could so much as consider attempting to give chase, I caught a glimpse of the girl, limp and covered in gashes, causing me to come back to my senses. What's gotten into me? There's no point in going after him. The slaves have been freed and the valuables are plundered. The plan was a huge success. What I should be concerned with now is getting myself out of here. I need to stay focused. I took a moment to survey the hall, reevaluate the situation. Things had progressed somewhat since I had got it in my head to go after the Lord. Many of the slaves were gone, and the guards were beginning to mobilize. They were better equipped, trained, and more fit than us. And we were, for the most part, fueled entirely by determination and righteous anger, which would only go so far in direct combat. Gratien was probably the only one on our side with any sort of real training. One man was not enough to win this fight, especially now that our main advantage, surprise, was exhausted.
Hey, Jacopo! If you're finished with all your business, I'd really like to get the hell out of here. I may be a badass and all, but I ain't that good. I ain't God.
Right, yeah. Sorry for the holdup. Before regrouping with Gratien, I knelt before the girl. Hello? Can you stand? Hello? Can you hear me? I gently shook the girl by the shoulder, and the only response I got was a limp wag of her head. It was clear she was in no condition to walk. I guess I'll have to carry her, I thought, and I made to pick her up. When I saw her face and gasped, "Dear God." It was horrific. Unsettling marks covered the young girl's face. Primal repulsion was my first reaction, and shortly thereafter came overwhelming pity. I obviously had no way of knowing what kind of life this girl had led, but something told me it was far worse than any of the countless children who grew up in the slums, struggling day after day.
Hey, get moving. I ain't waiting around.
I'm coming! I grabbed the girl's arms, wrapping them around my neck from behind, and climbed to my feet. I could feel her breath, faint though it was, on my ear. Hey, you hang in there. And then I broke into a dash, leaving the fading panic of the Great Hall behind.
So bright. Light? Am I in heaven?
Damn! She's surprisingly heavy for how little meat she has on her.
What? You think she'd be lighter than... She think you'd be lighter than harder than your ran or something? Just ditch the stupid girl. She ain't long for this world anyways.
Hell no! I'm going to let all that effort facing off against the Lord go to waste!
You're one stubborn son of a bitch. You know that.
This is not heaven. Who are these people? Where am I going? I don't have the strength to think right now.
Hey! Don't you go dying on me back there! Please, I'm begging you.
I'm so sleepy. Sleep. That sounds wonderful. How nice it would be to fall asleep on such a warm back.
We're probably safe here, for the time being. So, what's next?
First, I need to take her somewhere she can get some rest.
You've got nothing ahead of you except that half-dead girl, do you, kid? What, you fall for her or something? Is that what gets your rocks off? Can you only get it up on the ugliest thing in the city? Not to mention, she can't be older than 10. I like to think of myself as open-minded, but that squicks me, man.
No, God, no, absolutely not. I'm merely concerned for her well-being.
Right. Of course you are. Well, everyone's got their kinks.
I swear to God.
What I'm wanting to know is, what are you planning to do about all these slaves you just freed? They can't stay here.
Not even a chance to defend myself. Right. My people are taking care of that. They've made arrangements with several slave traders who have agreed to transport them to other cities. After that, who knows?
So you set them off, so you set them free, and just to abandon them?
Obviously. I'm not some rich kid playing hero. I gave who knows how many people the opportunity to change their lives. I think I did a damn good work, too, if you ask me.
Fair enough. Can't expect you to give him the world.
Setting the slaves free wasn't even the main objective.
You're more perceptive than you look.
Damn straight. Anywho, I'm planning to stick around for a bit. You still owe me a night with that pretty lady, though.
In that case, you should head down to the pub. You'll probably find some of my people there. The ones who weren't injured, at least.
Aye, aye.
As much as I'd like to take her to a real doctor, I'd probably do best not to show my face in the city proper so soon after making a mess of the Lord's manor. If one of his guards were to spot me, it probably would not end well. Which means she is my only hope.
It's still afternoon. We're not open until evening.
It's me, Maria. Let me in.
Jacopo. You're alive. You have any idea how worried I was? I mean, fucking hell, I haven't slept in 2 weeks.
I'd bet my life that I just woke you.
Oh, shove it. It's the sentiment that counts. Anyway, I'm glad you're... Wait. What the hell is that on your back? A corpse?
She will be soon if we don't do something. But for the time being, she's still alive.
Whoa, stop right there. I have about 1,000 things I want to say right now, but let's start with this. What exactly are you planning to do with her here? I mean, she looks like she got mauled by a fucking lion.
I need to stay low for a while. I can't risk showing my face in the city. So I was wondering if you would mind letting her stay here for a while.
Excuse me? Let her stay here.
And if you could look after her while she's here, I would appreciate it.
Nope. Stop. Time out. I'm not doing anything without an explanation. First of all, who is she? And what the hell happened to her?
The Lord was torturing her. I rescued her during the revolt.
Hey, keep going.
That's all there is to it.
It's a pretty pathetic explanation.
I'm telling you, that's all there is to it. What more do you want from me?
So you're telling me you infiltrated the Lord's manor to swipe a half-dead little girl you'd never even met before? You couldn't have gone for, oh, I don't know, something worth actual money? She's just skin and bones, and God knows if those wounds will ever heal. Though, if she's pretty enough, we might be able to put her to work, I guess. Let me get a quick look at? I have no words. I can't.
Please, Maria. The longer we stand here, the closer she gets to death.
And once she recovers, if she even does, what then? How does she pay for her food? 'Cause she sure as shit can't work here. I'm not sure there's much work she even can do. We're a business, not a charity. If I'm going to be putting my time and money into looking after her, I need something in return. And she doesn't look like she'll be able to offer much of anything.
I can offer some financial assistance. We plundered a decent amount of valuables from the Lord's treasury. Even after we divide everything up, my share should be enough to support her for some time.
I don't get it. Why do you care so much?
What? Do you expect me to just leave her to die? I wouldn't be able to live with myself knowing that I could have done something to prevent it. I swear to God, does anyone have a damned heart? Because everyone sure seems hell-bent on letting her die.
Whoa, relax, chill. You've lived here long enough, Jacopo. You should know as well as anyone that morals and good intentions aren't enough to help anyone.
I don't care. I want to help her. She can't be any older than 10. And her face could very well still heal. I couldn't stand to see her life end like this. Abused and tortured by a madman. It's downright cruel. She deserves better. She deserves to know the world's not all hell and misery.
Oh, fine. You win. I surrender. I know better than anyone there's no changing your mind once you're set on something. You can be so hot-headed sometimes.
So, will you help?
Well, it's not like anyone else is going to. Now, whether she makes it or not is a question of how much that scrawny body of hers is determined to hold on. So what are you waiting for? Bring her on in.
Thank you, Maria. I really appreciate it.
Cut it out with the mushy crap. You're gonna make me spew. Please just stick to your usual snippy bitch act. I'm gonna get a bath going. Give me a hand. You should be able to get some rest here. Hardly anyone comes back here, even during business hours. I have to say, though, even cleaned up, she's a damn mess. People say the Lord's a twisted bastard, but this is way worse than I imagined. Who would do this to such a young girl? Oh, and for the record, I checked and she's still, chaste, if you would. Good to know the Lord's not that fucked up, I guess. Thank goodness for small blessings. Not that preserving her virginity is a whole lot of comfort compared to what he did do.
Maria, show a little common decency, would you?
Telling a whore to be decent is like telling a cat to bark.
Well, start barking, goddammit!
Excuse me?
Why'd you even think I need to know whether she's chaste or not?
I checked, so I figured I'd mention it.
Keep it to yourself.
You know, for someone who spends so much time in a whorehouse, you sure are easily embarrassed.
Huh? What was that?
Oh, nothing.
And besides, the only reason I'm here is so much is to help out with the business side of such things, not to make use of the facilities.
So you did hear me.
Hey, Maria.
Oh, is she coming too? Hey there. How are you feeling? Can you see me? I've got some warm water if you're up to drinking anything. Still too weak to move on your own, it looks like. That's all right. Hang on. I'll go grab it and help you out.
Oh, Lord.
Huh? Sounds like she just said something.
Of thy mercy, cut off mine enemies.
Huh? Enemies?
All them that afflict my soul.
Hello? You okay in there?
For I am thy servant, O Lord.
It's okay. He's not here. We escaped. He can't hurt you anymore.
Of thy mercy,
It's okay.
destroy all them.
Hey, Jacopo? Not to be indecent, but I think she might be, beyond repair, and not just physically.
No need to jump to conclusions. She could just be simply disoriented. You're safe. There are no enemies here. You need not be afraid. You'll be feeling better in no time. You just need some rest. The human body is incredibly adept at repairing itself. I'll have some ointment for you soon, too.
You'll what? Ointment. How are you expecting to pay for it?
Don't interrupt me, Maria.
Sorry. Christ.
Just hang in there a little bit longer. You'll be all better before you know it. If there's anything you need or want, don't hesitate to ask. I'll get you anything within reason. Guess it'll be a bit before you can talk much, huh? Maria, I need to drop by the pub for a bit. I'll get some ointment on my way.
Butterfly. Butterfly. Brooch. Gone.
Butterfly brooch? What's she talking about? Is she seeing things or something?
Perhaps. Or maybe the Lord took it from her.
My treasure.
All right. I'll see if I can find it when I'm out. If it's something the Lord took from you, there's a chance it might be in the stuff we looted from his manor. I'll be back later today. You get some rest, okay? Look after her while I'm gone, would you, Maria?
I already agreed, so it's not like I can say no. Just remember, I've got work to do, so I can't be with her every waking moment.
A room, a warm blanket, and you checking in on her every once in a while is more than enough. Thank you. Anyway, I'll be back.
Ciao. Hey, Jacopo?
Yeah?
Don't get in over your head, okay?
I won't.